Will you please welcome the team from Redoubtable? First of all, Michel Hazanavicius. Bérénice, Bejo. Stacy Martin. And tonight, Godard's representative on Earth, Louis Garrel. Michel, first of all, it could be said that in France, people don't always like to joke about the late 1960s. It was a very turbulent, very serious period. This is a film which takes that time, I think, very seriously, but you find ways to joke about it nevertheless.
Well, yes, 50 years later, I think we can make some jokes about it. And the movie is not very ironic with the period. The movie is a little bit ironic with Jean-Luc Godard, which is doable, I guess, but not that much with May '68 and that period.
And what about the question of taking Godard seriously? Because Godard is someone who clearly has never taken himself entirely seriously, but in this film, you're kind of really pushing him almost into the territory of Woody Allen.
Yeah, well,
they did, of course, work together.
Before that period, he was not taking himself seriously, but I think at precisely that period, he took him seriously because he believed maybe too much in politics. I don't know, but I don't know if you have seen the movie Le Vent d'Est and the movies of that period. They're a little bit serious, in my opinion. But no, but I think it's a serious topic, and it would be very, very. I mean, there was a risk to be pompous, treating Jean-Luc Godard seriously. So I thought it was more. I mean, I preferred that balance of making jokes and trying to be funny with him.
You and Bérénice, I know that when you worked on The Artist, you watched a lot of films very closely. I know, for example, you told me at the time you studied the way that Joan Crawford handled a cigarette. In this film, you've all kind of gone, I think, quite deeply into, certain manners of, the 60s style of behavior and 60s culture. How did that work? Did you all look at not just Godard films of the period, but 60s French cinema and 60s culture, etc., in depth?
First, I just want to say hello to Simone, my stepdaughter, who's here. Yeah, because Michel's daughter just lived in London for 2 weeks, and we forgot to say hi to her. So hi. And then for the movie. Well, me, I have a supporting part. So it's smaller than for The Artist, for example. But I rewatched some Godard movies, some Truffaut movies, and that's it. But my character is not a famous character, so I didn't have to be exactly Michel Rosier. I just had to play a woman who's gonna make her character able to how do you say in English, s'épanouir, emancipate.
Flourish, emancipate.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot you were here. Thank you. And so I didn't have that kind of work to do compared to Louis or Stacy that will tell you.
And Stacy, you're not in any way impersonating Anne Wiazemsky. I mean, your presence and your look completely different from the way she was on screen. But did you have any contact with her, and did you feel that you were in a way sort of channeling some aspect of her spirit as a writer, for example?
Definitely. I think more so as a writer than as an actual being, because it was so clear from the start that I didn't resemble her, and it was also very important for me to not do a biopic about two people who do exist, but do something that is very instilled in Michel's style of making a film that we see so well in OSS 117 or in The Artist. And so I thought at the beginning, well, actually what I'm interested in is to actually bring it further and look at all the other women that Godard has filmed and see how they become their own person, and then to find something in between those lines. But then there's definitely something that comes from the writing of the book, because it was so strong and there's something very playful about it. And the way that Michel also adapted it, kind of, it's bound to influence the work, but in a more subliminal level. Yeah.
And Louis, playing Godard, he is now thought to be, you know, one of the great hermits of world cinema. I think he doesn't sort of step out of rôle very much. But at the time, in the 60s, he was on TV all the time. And he was on chat shows, he was on news programs. There's just masses of footage of him clowning around. So what did you watch? How did you turn yourself into the great man?
But I watched so many things about him, but the thing is that, you know, as a person, me, I doubt on every subject, you know. I'm not sure about myself, about the thing that I see, everything, so comment on dit, très dubitatif. A skeptic. I'm a skeptic man, okay? And then even tonight, for example, I'm very skeptic, you know. This is
skeptical.
Skeptical, sorry for my French, okay. Even my French is, even my English is skeptical. But when I mean, as an artist, of course, as a filmmaker, I've always been fascinated by his movies. But as a person, the way he's sure of himself, the way he knows exactly things, and the way comment il assène les choses. Comment on pourrait dire il assène les choses? Usually I speak a better English, but you know this is because
how he chooses to set things.
How he chooses to set things, you know, I was very impressed about that. So I was very happy to play this kind of character. Somebody who said, this is my choice. Because me, when I said, this is my choice, you know, every time I said, okay, my choice, but maybe another one, you know. But he chooses, you know, he chooses for voilà.
Michel, you've done some very, very perfectionist work here with the look of the film, the colours. You've worked with Guillaume Schiffman, the DOP, to do your version of that kind of look that Godard and Raoul Coutard created at the time, which was very rigorous. And you've got all those Mondrian colours. Did you ever feel that you had to be very careful not to become a prisoner of your own style or Godard's style?
Yeah, I did my homework, so I was very rigorous when I studied, and I tried to understand how he did things. But it was done in the idea of free myself and telling my own story. So it's not a Godard movie, it's my movie, and I did it, I tried to use some Godard's motifs, and the idea was to revisit his cinematography, but not to copy it. And if there's any director in the room, he can learn English, he can learn lines, don't worry. Yeah, she's fluent. And much nicer.
The tone of the film is...
Oh, she's perfect. She speaks English too, by the way. And Spanish, if there's any. I'm sorry.
And they're all very experienced in making movies as well. The tone of the film is very comic, but Anne Wiazemsky's books are her memoirs of this period. They're quite serious, they're quite detached, so you didn't want to do a sort of religious adaptation of the books. You've put a completely different tone into it, which is
yeah, but
yours.
When I read the book, I saw the comic potential, and actually she declined some offers to adapt her books on screen. And when she understood that I wanted to make fun movies, not especially comedy, but fun, a light movie, then she agreed. When she understood that, she agreed, and because I think she believed it was maybe the only option, because Godard's figure and also May 68 can be so intimidating. It could be too heavy, yeah.
Okay, we can take some questions. Now I think there's a microphone or two around somewhere. So we have one just down there.
Hi. So how often do you break your glasses? No, sorry, in all seriousness, could you talk a little bit about the scene with Jeanne d'Arc and in the cinema when Stacy Martin's character Anne is with Jean-Luc and with Jeanne of Arc? And I thought that was a very beautiful scene, and could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it's a Godard scene, actually. And it's a replica of a scene in Vivre sa vie. I don't know the English name. Vivre sa vie as well.
Yeah, but they didn't.
My
They
life
kept
to
it as
live?
Vivre sa vie.
Vivre sa vie.
Okay, Vivre sa vie. And she's going, Anna Karina goes to cinema and she sees Joan of Arc and she cries, and it's maybe one of the most beautiful scenes Godard ever made, in my opinion. And I could put another movie, and my idea was to, I mean, what you saw, I don't have to explain it, but they speak, and speaking, they overdub a silent movie, which is, and Godard was doing a lot of self-citation, putting some posters of his own movie in his own film, and that's what I did, because I did a movie in France that I think no one knows here, named La Classe Américaine, which is a mashup, and we overdubbed all the actors, and that's what we did here. Very confusing answer, I'm sorry.
Sorry, could I ask just really quick for the cast, do each of you have a specific Godard film that you really love, or maybe a favorite? I'd be really interested to know.
Favorite Godard films?
Une femme mariée. Is it a married woman in English?
Yeah,
Did they-
I think so. I think they translated it as
I like few of them. I don't have a favorite one. I love Vivre sa vie and Le Mépris. Maybe those two ones.
Contempt.
One, two, three.
Redoubtable. Le Redoutable.
I don't know. If you can start by a movie of him, you can start with Pierrot le Fou. Okay. You know Pierrot le Fou. So why do you ask? I mean, if you know him.
That was where I started, I have to say. Okay.
Hello, I thought this was a really, really wonderful film. And I really appreciated the sensitive nature that you dealt with the African American struggle in America. And I just wanted to know, how did you guys connect the revolution that you guys had here with even the culture that we have in America?
I'm not sure I understood the question, neither the translation, but no. Yeah. With what? The question of the student revolution? Yeah. I actually try to respect it a lot, and I try to approach it by through the youth and their vividity and their energy, and I think that was this small revolution. It's not a real revolution, but people were very fun. It was full of life, and that's what I wanted to respect, actually, and especially because the character of Godard is supposed to be on the side of everything, on décalage. And so I had to have this very first degree on the revolution, and he was the guy turning around. So I try not to make fun of the revolution.
Okay, yes, please.
Not knowing French at all, when the two main characters were walking along and there were slogans written all over the wall, what did those slogans say?
You have to come back and pay another ticket to... That's the trick.
But
I'm
I still
sorry.
won't know French.
No, it's written, it's even complicated in French, so I'll try to make it in English. It's written with of a man you can make a cop, a priest, a military, and you couldn't make a man. That's it.
I think there are whole books actually on the Paris wall slogans of 1968. So I would think so. Yeah. Okay. Yes, please. Wait. No, microphone coming.
Hi.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. I was just wondering, because the film has... this is somewhat intimidating.
What's your problem?
Where do I begin? It's, you know... no, because the film has subtitles, and it's quite an interesting question. I know it's one that Godard approached in Le Mépris, but there are times when I was reading the subtitles and they weren't aligning with what I was hearing in French, and I was wondering, do you ever review the subtitles for your film to sort of question how they're done? Because a lot of it seemed to be sort of the CRS SS was translated as the police SS, which obviously makes less sense. And it's just something I've always wondered about filmmakers. So as you're here, I thought.
Yes, I work. But as you can see, my English is. I mean, nobody would hire me to make subtitles if I was not the boss. So I try to work on it, but it's very difficult, and especially Godard was. I would say the main subject of Godard is the language, and of course the cinematic language, but also the symbol language. And especially in that period, there was a lot of puns and play with words and everything, and. So the movie is full of this in French, and we did our best, but some things are really, really difficult to... I mean, when you make a joke with words which is not funny, but it's funny because it's not funny, and for example, at one point he said, le père de Josette. I would call my daughter... It's really, I won't translate it because it will be very embarrassing for me. So yes, I worked on subtitles.
Okay, we've got time for one last one. Let's go right to the back there, since the microphone's there, and there you go.
Firstly, can I say how much I enjoyed the film? I thought it was a very ingenious homage to Godard. I recently interviewed Michel Strauss, who had Prénom Carmen actually filmed in his apartment, and no doubt Jean-Luc Godard is as difficult as he appeared in the film. Can I ask, do you have any idea of what Jean-Luc Godard actually thinks of this film?
I never received the text, the congratulation text, like, hey bro, good movie bro. So I guess you haven't seen it, so that's... I don't know. I don't even know what he thinks in general. So,
So he didn't send you a cigar?
No, he didn't say anything, which I think is the best that can happen to me. So.
Okay. Well, thank you all for a redoubtable evening. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Michel, Bérénice, Stacy, Louis, and thank you, Juliette, also. All the best.